The opening track, Long Way Round, I wanted that to stay the opening track because the way it is on the record is how it happened. We'd rehearsed the song a couple times. We were about to record it, but people were getting their sounds together. And the drummer was, just kind of playing his groove while we were getting all of our sounds. And one by one, everybody kind of just came in and started vibing. And it was such a visceral vibe that thank God the engineer had pushed record. And I was still working on my lyrics. I hadn't really figured them out yet. I was tinkering with it still. And I started just sort of humming absentmindedly. And then all of a sudden the vibe just clicked. It was literally like you could hear a click. And all of us were like, what's happening? Like there's such a strong vibe in the room. And so then I just started singing it. But, it's interesting. The bass is coming in a different place. And it all just starts coming in odd places. And then I start singing. And it was an improvised verse, just totally making it up. And it was it. Like, that was it. That was the take. That's how it happened. And so that lead in on the record is the lead in of how it unfolded in the studio, which that's just magical. You can't make stuff like that happen. And so it's always so special when you are cutting it live like that.
You don't give a fuck about it having to be what someone says it needs to be to meet some quota or get somebody to sign on or to feel, you've always been like, I need to express myself. This is what my expression is right now, take it or leave it. It means a lot to me. So and the joy comes from me feeling that I accomplished what I set out to do, whatever that might be, even if you're not sure at the beginning. And I just love that, Pat. That's like what we champion so much on LaunchLeft. I know it's hard. I do. That's why I admire you. So I'd love to hear a little bit about like even perhaps the toil of that sometimes when you feel swayed.
Art is an interesting thing. You do it, or I have done it because it was a medicine and it was a salve. It was like being an herbologist. It was like mixing herbs to put on my own burns. And so I was trying to write songs for really specific reasons for myself to soothe pain, or to bolster myself. And so it was very personal. And yet also, the connection that's possible when you do something really honest and really vulnerable, the human connection that can happen is like, it's really unique what can happen with music. I think especially when you get to be on stage and try to peel your skin off and open up a vein so people can really feel you. And that's a real different intention, right? It's the intention to connect and to use your technical ability, your words to try and connect really deeply to yourself and then to another human. And then there's something just very sacred in it. It's a sacred thing to be able to participate in. And then seeing that medicine you made for yourself ends up feeling like medicine to other people. And different songs affect people differently depending on what their pain is. And it's so beautiful. And that's just a different intention. If your intention is to be famous and popular, that's great too. It doesn't make one better than the other. It just means you're solving for a different math equation. Mm-hmm. For me, I was just trying to solve for A, my own pain, and B, I wanted to maximize connection. Mm-hmm. And so I always tried to make myself as transparent as I could, so that the connection, whatever was flowing through me to you, back out, it was maximizing the connectivity. And so not taking it personally and not getting egoic about it and making sure you're staying a student. And it's an interesting thing to become a professional musician because there's that, right? That's just an artist's sort of take on why I'm doing music. And then you get into a business. And if you're in a business, you should only be in a business if you want to be in the business, right? Otherwise, you're going to make records in your bedroom. And so then for me, it was like understanding how does this business function so that I can protect my child, which is my music. That's an innocent thing. It has to stay pure. It has to have really pure intentions. But now I'm in a structure and I have to understand how do I protect and keep this thing pure. And for me, that was making sure I never leveraged music or I never was in a position to have to force my music to perform well. And that meant living on little money. It meant turning down $1 million signing bonus when I was a homeless kid and got discovered. It meant signing contracts and setting up contracts to protect that baby. And it always comes down to money. It really does. Like if you want money, you're going to leverage your kid. For me, I come from agriculture. And so it was like I was getting offered $1 million signing bonus to leverage fruit that I didn't even have a seed made. I didn't even have a record made, you know, much less fruit. Like a seed is the first thing. You have to grow roots and build a trunk. It's a lot of hard work to grow a tree. Then a side effect, a weird phenomenon is the fruit. Well, I was trying to sell fruit before I even had a seed, which just felt inherently really dangerous to me. So it was turning the money down. It was setting up a deal structure and understanding the business to make sure that I could make the kind of art I wanted, which for me was folk music, you know, the height of grunge. The odds of that working, I thought, were quite slim. And that meant I had to be willing to live on nothing. I had to be willing to be very affordable and cheap to a label, so I couldn't be dropped should the record fail. And so you pay prices for the vision, you know, for making the music that I wanted. I had to make sure that I had a strategy that supported it should my vision fail. And so I think like that odd juxtaposition of being an artist, making sure you're making something that's authentic and interesting to you, and then realizing I'm in a business where I am trying to connect to human beings, and I'm in a really weird inorganic business trying to make something organic. And what strategy am I going to put in place, just like parenting, to be a good parent to make sure that child has the best chance of succeeding?
From my personal experience, know enough people to know that when you go for just one thing without an intention behind it, it can be difficult. So we like to create this sort of intentional space to talk about that depth of courage that it takes to do something like you did and choose, instead of money, you know, your basically your control of your own music and what you wanted to do and not having to sacrifice that.
It was funny because I almost didn't sign my record contract when I got discovered because it scared me a lot. I had such an abusive background that, you know, and a lot of trauma and agoraphobia and social anxiety. And, you know, I knew if, God forbid, I ever got famous, for somebody like me with my background, that would be a real recipe for disaster. It's every TV movie or, you know, film movie you've seen about any musician. And so I only signed the contract under really specific terms with myself. I had to get really clear about my hierarchical, like, decision-making process. Why was I doing this? And what was I unwilling to sacrifice? And for me, you know, when I moved out at 15, I knew the odds were against me being happy. And I wanted to be happy more than anything in the world. I wanted to learn if that was a learnable skill. Was it a teachable skill? And so for me, I signed my record contract with the promise that my number one job would be to learn how to be a happy, whole human and not a human full of holes. And my number two job would be to learn to be a musician. And that under that, there was a subcategory of I wanted to be a great singer-songwriter more than I wanted to be famous. Not that you can't be both. There's examples of people being both. But you make decisions every day. And so you have to be making them based on something. So it caused me to turn down The Real World, for instance, was, you know, a huge reality show, one of the first reality shows in the 90s. And my label was like, you are literally going to live in a house. You're going to go from being homeless to living in this house. We'll watch you make your record. The whole world will get to see it. You know, it'll be like this instant. And I was like, no, like I turned it down. And I remember my label being like, come again? This is the most extraordinary opportunity your homeless ass is going to be offered. I was like, no. I had this motto of hardwood grows slowly. That would put fame ahead of my ability to even make art. I didn't even know how to make a record yet. You know what I mean? So just the inherent danger of it really hit me. And then my record failed for 3 years. And there were times when I looked back going, was I so dumb? Like, should I have done that TV show? But then, you know, luckily Bob Dylan came along and Neil Young, and they just really encouraged me and were like, you may never be famous. You may never make money. Are you a fucking singer-songwriter or are you a fucking pop singer? Make a choice. But if you're a singer-songwriter, you have a hard road to hoe. It's like a holy calling. And it may not work out, but your job is to write songs that speak to humans. And I was like, yes, sir, that is my job, sir. You know, and they gave me kind of that guts at those really critical moments to keep going.
Hey, if you like that video, you can see the whole thing at our Patreon page. That's right, just hit the link that you're seeing on the screen right now, and it'll take you there. And you can become a patron today and help us keep launching new artists and bringing left-of-center art and activism to a wider audience. And can't wait to see you soon.